Hey guys, welcome to Wick Live. I am Kayla Dan. I'm here with Dan Selke. It's been a minute since we've been here together. And Dan, can I just say how jazzed I am to be sitting next to you today?
I'm thrilled to have you back, Kayla.
Thank you.
I've missed you a lot. The first week you were sick.
I was.
You got better.
Yep. Was ready to go next week. I had a very bad sore throat. It felt like my tonsils were touching and I couldn't really talk. And then I had a cough for like 2 weeks, so good times.
But after that, the next week, the internet just completely dropped out of the office. We couldn't do a thing.
No internet.
But we're back. We have more Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire news. We're going to have a new edition of A Song of Dan and Josh later, where Josh Hill and I go over more chapters from A Game of Thrones. And we have some exciting stuff to talk about, Kayla.
We do.
We do.
I'm excited.
Let's jump right in. Guys, I'm not sure how many of you saw this, but obviously Season 8 is filming right now in Belfast, around the world, soon to be that. And we're getting news about casting, and there's a very interesting new casting notice that could be huge for the series going forward.
Huge.
I want your opinion on this, Kayla.
Okay.
I'm going to read you the casting notice. What do you think? What comes to your mind when you hear this? All right, according to Watchers on the Wall, a Game of Thrones fan site who has a pretty good track record for this kind of stuff, the Season 8 production is looking for a sad-eyed young girl, aged 9 to 11, who will share one excellent scene with a leading cast member. She will have a neutral Southern accent, meaning not from the north, probably. So further, somewhere south, King's Landing, Riverland, somewhere around there.
Is it bad that I can't even tell a difference with accents on the show?
Yeah, kind of. No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Is there a big difference?
Yeah. I mean, I can't do accents, but the Northerners are like, you know, I'm from the north, the wall. The people in King's Landing are more like proper British.
Oh.
Like to speak more eloquently.
I never even noticed that.
Just a little more elocution.
Got it. So wait, what accent is this? Northern?
Southern.
Southern.
So this person, this 9-year-old sad-eyed girl, is not from the north. That's pretty sure. And Julie Davies, hi. Good to see you.
Hi, Julie.
Looking good, Dan, she says.
Wait, have we talked about your new look yet? I was going to bring that up.
I mean, the beard has grown in over when we were off a week.
It's got a beard going, haircut.
I'm glad you guys like it.
It's a brand new Dan.
It might be gone soon. It's starting to itch.
Oh.
But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And hi, everybody. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. Been a few minutes. It has. We're going to be back. We are going to be off next week, though, for Thanksgiving. So it's going to be an up and roller coaster ride with this. We'll get to that when we come to it. Anyway, back to this casting notice.
Yes.
Anything come to mind?
Cersei and Jaime's
Ooh.
unborn child.
Ooh, I love that, like a fast forward thing.
Yeah.
Because she is pregnant.
Yes.
It totally could be that.
A big scene with the main character is what they said?
Yeah, big scene with a leading cast member.
Cersei. That's my guess.
There has been a theory going around. This is, again, just rumor, unconfirmed theory. We all love that. That it could be Jon Snow and Daenerys' unborn child fast forward some.
No.
Because we've talked about it. That they have been pounding the, I can't have children, I can't have children. But if you say that on a TV show more than twice, you are going to have children.
But when does she have a northern accent?
It depends where she's born. We don't know yet. We have no idea. She has 9 months to go anywhere she wants.
Where'd we leave off with them? Where were they?
They were on a boat.
Yes.
Having sex.
Yes.
Heading to the north.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot can happen between then and when you give birth to a child.
This is true. And it's, what's the age?
9 to 11. So this would be some kind of fast, you know, maybe like an epilogue thing. Like whatever happened after it was over. Or maybe we'll get a giant time jump.
I hope it's not their offspring.
I know. You are very anti-incest.
Yes.
Rightfully so. No one can really say boo on that. Or it could be, you know, another character. Like Jaime's heading to the north. He go through the Riverlands, meet somebody. Qyburn, Cersei's little Frankenstein doctor, creepy guy, has a cadre of little kids who stab people and give them secrets. Could be one of them. We don't know, but it's very interesting to think about. And if you guys have any suggestions, let us know. Love to hear what you think. The sad eyes are the clue, according to Terry Paul.
Who would have sad eyes? If my parents were Jaime and Cersei, I'd have sad eyes.
I mean, if I were one of Qyburn's little birds who stab people on command, I'd be sad.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And Gary LaPatra says, your beard, like winter, is coming. it's coming in. It's It's kind of.
I think it looks good. It is coming in.
I like it
Let's just
too.
give it more time.
Okay, yeah, maybe a bit more.
In 2 weeks, we'll see where we're at.
We'll see where we're at
with that.
Anyway, beyond that, we also have some notes about potentially returning cast members. Some good news and some bad news. The bad news first. Remember Mira Reed, the stout-hearted girl who dragged Bran on a little sled all throughout the north?
Girl needs to put her feet up.
She does. And we last saw her leaving Winterfell, saying goodbye to Bran, and because he's a robot now, him being like, okay, yeah, thanks,
yeah, that was
bye.
a very sad goodbye.
It was. She gave an interview to Metro and basically said that she doesn't know if she's going to be back for season 8. She hasn't gotten the call, she's waiting, which unfortunately to me says she's not.
What she said made me really sad.
It was really,
like,
it was a sad
shouldn't
scene.
her agent or something be on top of this, or at least give her a heads up like, hey, you're definitely not going to be in the last season, or hey.
You would think so.
It just seems weird that she's just like, yeah, I haven't heard.
Yeah, I agree.
I would want to know one way or the other if it were me.
I would definitely too. And that's a thing that they can talk about with their agents and with their lord. But I do think that if she doesn't know by now, I don't think she's coming back.
Yeah.
I think they would have had her come to the table.
How long have they been filming now? A couple months?
A couple months, yeah. Like the big mini stuff they haven't gotten to yet, but if she hasn't heard, they have had a full table read of everything. So I figure if you're not at that table read, you're
it's
not
looking good.
Which is too bad, because I really liked Mira. I always thought she was a good character.
And the way she went out was kind of sad, so I'd like her to come back and like.
She lived.
Well, to
be fair. She was long suffering. She put in a lot, so we're gonna pour one out to you, Mira, in case you don't come back. Thanks for the invite. Daniel Silva asked, what if the Reed family, Mira Reed is, that's her family.
Yep.
Has Arthur Dayne's sword, Dawn, which is a very powerful sword in Game of Thrones lore. I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out. Lots of good stuff. Ooh, Devin thinks the little kid might be Arya in a kid mask, like her face, stabbing the fake queen, stabbing Cersei.
Ooh.
That'd be good. I'd watch that.
Yeah, because I guess they do need to use different people for when she does the mask thing.
Exactly.
Mask on.
Mask on. Anyway, another little thing going on, another cast member who may or may not be returning, probably not, is Jason Momoa.
But if he did, I'd be fine with it.
Of course. Spotted in Belfast recently, which is where they do all of their filming.
I feel like I'm having deja vu. Wasn't he doing the same thing last year during filming, hanging out?
Totally was.
And causing rumors and.
Which is why we shouldn't read too much into it. But
he's like.
Also, it's our job, so let's read into it.
He's like the senior that graduates and still comes back and hangs out with all the high schoolers.
I mean, also, he gets attention now, because, I mean, this Friday, he'll be debuting in Justice League. Mm-hmm. He's going to be Aquaman. His career is taken off.
I think that says a lot about how tight the cast is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he said. He gave an interview to Mario Lopez on Extra TV, and he said, I was just there hanging out because I really loved them, and we were really tight together. But at the same time, I don't know, it's hard to come back and get a photo op with Kit Harington and Liam Cunningham and Dan Weiss and a fifth guy, and not interest fans.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just note, I think Khal Drogo, who Jason Momoa played, is the only Game of Thrones cast member ever for his character to die, and then they bring him back as something other than a corpse. Because he appeared in Daenerys' vision.
Yeah, her dream vision thing.
It's the only character to do that. All the others, once they're dead, they're gone. Or if they come back for another season, they're just a dead body.
So we shouldn't rule him out completely?
No, we should not rule him out completely.
Okay, I'm not going to.
They love him. And they are tight. So that's kind of, they said that's why they wrote him back into the scene way back when. So do it again. I'd watch it.
Here for that.
Be very curious. And yes, Elena agrees. Bring back Khal Drogo. All for it.
I'm in for that.
Finally, to end on a happy note, I'm not sure if you heard about this.
Just when I was reading the rundown, but I think it's the coolest thing. Tell us.
Pretty neat. Okay, guys, if you haven't heard about this, it's a hot scoop. Okay, so the Prince Charles Cinema in London is
First of all, what a cool cinema name.
Is a nice name, right? Very, very fancy and dignified. Is showing in marathon form all 67 episodes of Game of Thrones on the big screen. And this show is made for the big screen, I think.
Absolutely.
A TV show. Just one after the other, all back to back in a huge marathon starting at 7 p.m. on Monday, November 27th. Dinner breaks provided by Mod Pizza. Kayla, if you had the chance to just...
How many days is that going to take?
I think it ends on Thursday, so like 3 straight days.
And they can only have pizza for every meal?
It said dinner breaks.
Oh, okay.
I'm not exactly sure if they get...
Maybe dinner's provided, but they have to go
yeah, I think so.
for like breakfast and lunch on their own. Okay.
I meant they have to give them like some breaks, like some bathroom breaks. You can't just do everything. But that's pretty cool.
I've never heard of that. That's awesome.
It's great. I mean, this show will look good on the big screen. It's a bit much, I think. I mean, even for a big fan like me, watching all 7
Would you
episodes.
do it? Would you go if you could? Dan, I feel like this would be your dream come true.
You would figure that, wouldn't you? Yes, of course I would go. I would go because when else are you going to be able to do that?
Yeah.
But it would be a challenge. You have to plan for this.
And the people who make it through every episode are then entered into a drawing for a year's supply of pizza.
Of Mod Pizza, yeah. It's pretty fun.
So, I mean, big incentive at the end.
But if anybody here lives in London or wants to travel there...
What day does it start? November 27th. Okay.
Yeah, Monday. This is your opportunity to see every single episode on the big screen, which doesn't happen very often.
What do you think these people tell their employers?
How do you mean? Oh.
Hey, listen.
There's a work emergency. It's a family emergency.
I gotta go watch every episode of Game of Thrones.
I'm gonna be sick for 3 days. Or, I think it's actually 4 days. Or you tell your boss what you're doing, and he and she's like, yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead.
Part of history.
Part of history. It's a good way of putting it. Anyway, registration is full, but they are going to give away some tickets at the door. So keep your eye on the Prince Charles Cinema Twitter account for that.
I think we should appoint you to head this up in the U.S.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it would be good business for a theater, too.
Oh, yeah. People are camped out for 4 days, of course.
Yeah, it's a very popular show.
What is the ticket price for something like that?
Oh, it's free.
Oh, it's free?
Yeah, it's free. That's how nice they are.
Is it like one theater or the entire theater?
That I don't know. They just said that it's showing it a marathon every single episode over the course of 4 days. Although I know it's free.
Okay. I think it'd be fun to say you're a part of that.
I think it would be. I mean, hope maybe it'll inspire other theaters to follow suit across the world.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to guess we're going to see some like long lines and some fun footage from it when it happens. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm just like, are they sleeping?
I don't know.
That's just a lot of hours.
Terry could survive a marathon, she says. Naturally. I'm sure anybody here.
I feel like most people in this Facebook Live could.
Yeah, we're diehards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. Any other closing thoughts, Kayla?
I'm so happy to be back with you, and I'll see you again
it's been a while.
In 2 weeks.
Yes, we're going to be off for Thanksgiving next Wednesday. But I'll be back the week after that with more Game of Thrones news. And, lucky for you, we still have an edition of A Song of Dan and Josh to do this week. 3 more chapters of A Game of Thrones. Kayla, always
Perfect
a pleasure.
timing, because I'm choking to death. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome, Kayla. Bon voyage.
All right.
Josh, good to see you. Would you sit through 6-7 hours of Game of Thrones straight in a theater setting?
Oh, I mean, I love Game of Thrones, but I don't know if I could do that.
It's intense.
So in Chicago,
a lot.
They have this thing at this theater that we have called the Music Box, and it's called like this 24-hour horror festival.
Yeah.
And it starts on Thursday and night and ends on Sunday morning, and it's 24 straight hours of back-to-back horror movies.
Cool.
I can only make it through like maybe 3 or 4. So I don't know if I would be able to go the whole way with Game of Thrones.
You would have to like smuggle in some substances to keep you awake.
You would.
At the very least, caffeine.
I couldn't even do when The Force Awakens came out and they did all 6 Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And then The Force Awakens, couldn't do it. And I love Star Wars more than I love Game of Thrones. So.
Right. You have to you could maybe time it so you get up exactly when it starts and go to bed exactly when it goes to bed. It'd be very hard. Very hard. But
however,
whoever's going to do it, I applaud you. Anyway, Josh, today we read 3 chapters, and it's also good to have you back.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you were on vacation the 1 week.
Yep.
And then the next week the internet was gone.
Yes, and I'm the keeper of the internet in the office.
So it's been 2 weeks, but we're back with A Song of Dan and Josh, where Josh and I go through a couple of chapters of A Song of Ice and Fire. We're still on a Game of Thrones bit by bit, dissect them, compared to the show. I have read all the books multiple times. Josh has never read the books, so you give it an unvarnished perspective.
Yeah.
Today we read a Catelyn chapter, read the first Arya chapter ever, and finally, one of the key chapters of the book, I think it was Bran 2, aka the one where Jaime pushes Bran out a window. Let's start with the Catelyn chapter.
Yeah.
Josh, right off the bat, we're getting an intimate look at Ned and Catelyn's sex life, frankly, which we never got on the book, on the show, rather.
Yeah.
Anything about that strike you? It's interesting?
No, I mean, like, it was a little jarring because I was expecting, like, with George R.R. Martin's very deep descriptions of the costumes and everything like that.
Right.
I was like, oh, is this where they get, like, the gratuitous sex from in, like, the show? But it actually wasn't that bad. And it was, I did find it interesting that we had this intimate moment between Ned and Catelyn that we never really got on the show. And I felt, again, when we went back to, like, the first Catelyn chapter, or the Ned chapter, whichever one it was, where we were getting an insight into the relationship, I felt it more than I did on the show, which I really liked because it invested me in their relationship, because they really do feel like two pieces put together, which makes things that happen later even more tragic.
Yeah, you could only do so much on a show, and we do have a little bit, like, this is the scene from the show. This kind of lying in bed together.
It's not what we got in the book.
No,
So.
In the book, it's much more clearly, a lot more intimate, let's say. And yeah, I think it works that you get the idea this is a couple whose relationship has stood the test of time and is honest to God, happily married.
I really feel like reading in these two characters in these couple of chapters they've been in, like they are best friends. They are like they play off of each other. Like going back to when they were talking in the garden, I think about King's Landing and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I liked it.
And Catelyn can be a hard character to get behind sometimes. So at least for some fans, like they see her as kind of cold. And I think it helps a lot to be inside her head and to see where she's coming from.
Yeah.
And that she does feel quite deeply. I mean, about Ned, about Jon. And another interesting difference from the show is that in the show, it's kind of Ned who's insisting he has to go to King's Landing and accept the handship Robert's offering him. And Catelyn's like, no, don't go, don't go. In the book, it's reversed. Catelyn's the one who's like, you have to do this because he's asking you. And if you don't take it, he's going to be mad. He's a king. You can't really depend on what he'll do. And he's the one resisting. Yeah. Do you make anything of that?
I mean, it goes like what you were saying. It's making Catelyn more of a layered character to me than she was on the show, because she is here making a decision for Ned, and it's like, you know, he wants to go. You can kind of feel because it's the king and everything like that, but she's the one that's pushing him instead of the other way around where it was on the show, where it was like Ned's very much making the decisions here, and Catelyn. While we did get their relationship feel, it did feel like Ned is the main person, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And then we have Catelyn, who is secondary. And here it feels much more like they're on even playing field. Right. And I really like that.
On the show, I mean, it almost feels like Catelyn's more like, it's kind of cliche to have the wife be like, no, you can't, you have to stay here with me. But on the books, it's more, she's actually pushing him to do this because she's aware of the consequences. And part of the reason she wants him to do it is because of this kind of new aspect we get in this chapter, which is kind of the Game of Thrones part of Game of Thrones, the cloak and dagger stuff. We get a message from Lysa Arryn hidden in the false bottom of a box, which has a lens in it, and the lens is a secret message because a lens helps you see. Which is so we're getting like coded messages. Which, by the way, on the show, she just like gets it's a raven. Here's a message.
Cut right to it.
which is fine. Yeah. But I think this is kind of the first taste we get of the political bat game and the tricksy stuff they do down in King's Landing, where it's all Varys and Littlefinger and secrets and whispers. It's a way of communication that Ned is clearly not used to and doesn't like. But Catelyn's the one who gets it, kind of interprets it, and puts more stock in this kind of stuff than he does. Yeah. Did that strike you was cool or stupid? Like, ooh, we got a hidden message in a box with a lens in it.
I mean, it was definitely different than the show, so I appreciated that. Right. And it did kind of get you into this, like you said, the Game of Thrones aspect of it, because it was kind of this, you know, very secretive thing, and it's kind of like the behind the scenes, like House of Cards political thing.
Like an element.
And it was a nice introduction. Like we always talk about the world building when we talked about King's Landing and the White Walkers and all that kind of stuff. And now this is kind of building out that sort of part of the mythology, which I like because it's a very big part of everything that happens. So at some point we had to get into this is the subterfuge of whatever. So I liked it.
I mean, it's also because, I mean, it's Ned's downfall, kind of, because he doesn't play the game. He just, he's a straight shooter, straightforward kind of guy, and that's what kills him, ends up. Maybe if he was more into hidden messages and boxes, he would have been alive. Final question about this chapter is, what do you make of Catelyn's opinion of Jon Snow? Like, she gives this whole kind of a longish kind of internal monologue about how she doesn't mind that Ned had a bastard. What she minds is that he brought a bastard home and calls him son in front of everybody.
Yeah. That was, again, to me, separating Catelyn and Ned as far as their characters were concerned, the way they think. Because Ned, even in that first chapter when he's chopping somebody's head off, he's like this very stoic adult character who you look up to Ned. He's got good values, you feel. Whereas Catelyn here, this was very much, I don't agree with this, I don't like this, this isn't traditional. How dare you do this to the children that we bore together on our own? So like, I liked it in that it gave Catelyn an edge. And she kind of had that on the show too. But this also combined with the relationship building, it's like, yes, they're in love, they're best friends, but they also aggressively disagree on things that are pretty important. So, but I liked it. And also, poor Jon.
Poor Jon. Yeah, I like the references in Bran's chapter. I think it was like, Jon was really moody lately. I don't know why.
It's like, well, stepmom hates me, so.
And you know, everyone else is getting to go down south, and I have to like stay here and go to the wall. Just picture it.
Not that Catelyn isn't a good character. I still feel she has good intentions. It just, to me, highlighted how much more Ned is as far as a better character than everybody else around him, because it's a very dark, dank world of bad people and shady people. And here's Ned who, you know, he kind of screwed up and he has a bastard child, although we figure things out about it later.
Well, yeah, that's the other bit of it. I mean, we know, having watched the show, that it's not his bastard. This is his sister's kid. And there's that line, I think she said, like, he brought it up once. And he was like, Jon's of my blood, that's all I need to know. Which is true. I guess here's a question. Why didn't he just tell her all these years?
I mean, I don't know enough about the end game with Jon Snow, but I feel like there was secrecy around it for a reason. It's kind of like, you know, at the end of Star Wars when they're like, we have to split up the kids and we can't let the Emperor and Darth Vader know.
Nice comparison.
Kind of the same thing where it's like, that's his cross to bear, where he's like, I can't tell anybody.
Right.
Maybe he wants to, but maybe it's also a thing where if she knows, then she's in danger of whatever kind of cloud is hanging over Jon Snow and Daenerys and that whole Targaryen thing. So I think he's protecting. I see it more as a loving gesture where he's like, I love you so much that I can't expose you to this because it's too dangerous.
I can totally see that. I like that. I mean, the other thing that the response to that would be like, screw that. We're in a marriage, we're in a relationship. I can bear your burdens with you. Stop treating me like I'm like glass. But yeah, I like that response. I can see that. That's the way Ned thinks about it. Moving on, we got a quick introduction to Arya. How'd she strike you? Arya 1, where she's just kind of roaming about the castle, not wanting to do needlework, watching the boys fight in the yard, and then ending by getting stared down by mom and nanny, basically.
Yeah, I did. It kind of reminded me of the Bran chapter, where he gets into the mind of this kid, and it's very childlike. It's very different from the Catelyn chapter.
I'm totally with you.
And, you know, in the Bran chapter, we talked about it. It's like he's looking up to everybody. The execution is happening in the distance. So it's a foreign thing to him, but he's still present. And I got the same thing from this chapter where I know what Arya becomes and what kind of character she is, but this felt like a joyous little girl, just like running around.
Did.
Like, yeah, it was almost tragic in a way because it's like,
this
is the last time that she's going to be this happy, this innocent. There's a lot of innocence in the chapter, I felt. And I think that's a credit to George R.R. Martin for getting it across that way.
I completely agree with you.
I really liked that.
Really quick, interrupting really quick. Gerald Walker mentioned, he asked, isn't Ashara Dane mentioned in this chapter? Yes, Ashara Dane is. That's one of the women Ned is rumored to have fathered a bastard with. we don't meet it. I'm sure Ashara is mentioned in the show. But yeah, she is, and in my opinion, Gerald, I mean, that's just one of the many red herrings Martin throws in our way over the course of 6 books to distract from the fact that Jon's actually Lyanna Stark's son. A lot of pronouns. But about you said about the childish stuff. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, right. It was like Bran that it switches very convincingly from like a 30-something woman in Catelyn who's kind of very serious-minded and thinking about her kids and her family's protection, to Arya, who, like, her biggest concern, and I loved this, are kind of her petty thoughts about how she can't do needlework and Sansa's much better than her. Like, I loved it was she said, Sansa brushed prettily. She did everything prettily. Arya thought with dull resentment. That felt very real to me. Yeah. That she's a little girl who just isn't good at the things little girls are supposed to be good at in this world. She would rather go and smack guys around with swords and shoot bow and arrows. And that she has, she's petty. Like, petty, children are petty.
Well, she's a kid, yeah, so.
She's allowed to be.
Yeah.
Well, she has a good relationship with Jon. Goes over there, chats him up.
Which Jon's noted, and I didn't really pick up on this, but the love triangle thing, that I didn't get that impression from this, but I read that in your notes, and I was like, huh. I could, not like, huh, I could see that, like, gross, but also, oh, interesting, interpreting it in that way. Yeah, especially with how much we know later in the series and TV, and I don't know with the books, how much incest there is with George R.R. Martin's writing, so.
Yeah, this is just a little, if you knew this, originally, George R.R. Martin was planning to have a love triangle, and I am not making this up, between Arya Stark, Jon Snow, and Tyrion Lannister. Ugh. Very hard to picture.
I mean, I can't stop picturing after you mentioned it, so that, no.
But you're right. I mean, like, in the next chapter, we'll establish that incest is a thing that happens. I mean, Jon and Sansa definitely have a fan base, even though they're not a couple in the show, but they have fans who kind of ship them, I guess is what you would say. Yeah. And Jon is their half-sibling.
Half-sibling,
I mean, honest to God,
We've seen so much incest in the show that I'll take half-sibling at this point.
It's normalized, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I think the idea of Arya with Tyrion is weirder than the idea of Arya with Jon.
It's gross. It's, yeah, no thank you to that one.
Yes, Karen summarizes it when she says, ew.
Yep. Exclamation point, exclamation.
But again, I am not making this up. George R. Martin admitted this. It's really weird. But, and so I think you can still see, like, maybe he was starting to set that up. Because there's a point when Arya's with Jon, and he kind of like ruffles her hair and calls her little sister, which is a big brotherly thing to do. But it could also turn, and they're clearly affectionate towards each other, and they like each other a lot because they're both outsiders. Yeah. Like Jon's the bastard who doesn't fit into anywhere, and Arya's the tomboy who is very much not fitting into what a lady is like in a society. So they have that connection. But yeah, going the rest of the way is weird, to say nothing of how Tyrion would fit into that. Ugh, God. And it all ends with another, like, kind of, like, not heartbreakingly, like, almost stupidly innocent moment where Arya walks into her room and, like, it's her mom and her nanny glaring at her disapprovingly, which is so low stakes compared to, like, murdering the hell out of Kingsguards later in the story.
It's like the end of a sitcom.
I know.
She comes in the door and the studio audience gasps, and it's like, yeah.
It would be like, oh, is the voice you would make.
And you've got Arya crosses her arms, looks at the camera. It's like, next week on Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So enjoy it while you can, Arya. It's not going to last. And finally, we have Bran 2, a pivotal chapter, the biggest we've gotten to so far, where, again, I liked how Martin is twisting the knife here. I think this is a good example of what he does with the story as a whole. Like, Arya's innocent right now, and we know that she'll get to a point where she's anything but innocent later. The first, like, a long bit of this chapter is describing how much Bran likes to move, how much Bran likes to climb, all things you need legs for, how much Bran is looking forward to going south, how much Bran is looking forward to seeing kings and knights and castles and doing all these adventures. Now, we know, having watched the show, he will do zip of that.
None of it.
He's going to lose his legs, he's going to be confined into a bed, and then he's going to go be a tree wizard somewhere. And so Martin knows that, and he's still giving us this childish, like, enthusiasm for all these things he loves to do. Is it mean, or is it just being truthful?
I imagine George R. R. Martin like crying while he was writing this because he's like, oh my God, there's so much emotion in here. Yeah, I picked up on the tragedy element of that, and I felt like it did make it a strong chapter because you know I knew what was going to happen, and then of course it ends with him getting pushed out of a window by Jamie. And yeah, it was kind of like the Arya chapter where it's this joy, this innocence of childhood. He's got more so in this chapter because he's like basically like all of your hopes and dreams. It's like when somebody's dying, you're like, oh my God, like, you could have been something.
Arya's the long game, and Bran, this chapter is the short game.
Yeah, yeah, and that got across real well to me, and yeah, it was sad, but also I'm interested to see how because if he's this into Bran's downfall, I want to see how in depth he gets into how Bran handles this. Because didn't Bran he disappeared from the show for a while? Like he wasn't even in season 6, was he?
He was in season 5. He
Yeah.
skipped season 5. He was in season 6. That's when Hodor died and everything.
Yeah. Also, Hodor. There'll be more world building in this chapter.
Oh yeah. We totally get mentions of a lot of things. We get mentions of Hodor. We get mentions of Old Nan. We get the Kingsguard. First mention that. We get Varys and Selmy.
Yep.
We get when Bran overhears Jaime and Cersei talking. We get the first mentions of Stannis. First mentions of Renly. And first mentions of Littlefinger. So just a lot of. Again, it's very impressive that all these names, he's just like dropping them around here, and then they'll eventually become more important.
Yeah.
I had a thought. Oh, I was going to say that Bran too is kind of, I think, one of the harder characters to get on the show, just because his journey is so cerebral and kind of metaphysical. And on the show, I feel like I never really had the connection with him that I did with, say, Arya or Sansa or Jon. Or just because it's not, it's out there. It's like he's going to be a mind-reading, time-traveling tree wizard. It's just less relatable.
And that's why I also not enjoyed, but appreciated George R. R. Martin setting up the fall.
Right. Because
in the show, if I'm remembering, at least what I remember from the show, we kind of got, Bran's just one of the kids, he's a young kid. And then the shock value of it was, oh my God, Jamie pushed the littlest, one of the, the Stark kid out of the window. Whereas in this one, it set it up, I had emotional stakes in it, in that he's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about how he's gonna go and be a knight and see all these things, and he's thinking about his life, the broad timeline of his life, and then how instantly that changes when he gets pushed out of the window. I felt it more in the books than I did in the show, and I agree with you that it is hard for me to get into Bran's head in the show. And it's, the books literally are inside of his head. Yeah, so straight from the first chapter, I was more interested in Bran than I was on the show. Not that Bran's not an interesting character on the show, or I'm not sympathetic towards him. I just feel more reading the books, getting the context of his thoughts, what he's thinking. And this chapter highlighted that to me greatly. And now I'm interested, like I said, to see where he goes with that as far as how Bran comes to grips with this, because it has been established that he is this kid, innocent, he's joyous. How does he deal with something that is so life-changing? When in the first chapter, we couldn't even show him an execution because, oh no, we have to shelter Bran from that. Right. He's a little kid. Now he just got shoved out of a window. He's never going to walk again. He's going to be a tree wizard. And how does he deal with that? And I'm excited because it gets so far into his head that maybe I'm going to get a better understanding of a very cerebral character. Yeah, personally, I agree with you, and I think Bran's one of the characters who works better in the books than the show for all the reasons you just said. It's easier to get to know what it's hard to approach story, so it's easier to convey it if you're actually in his head rather than just looking at him sit there and like grab onto a root. So good talk, Josh. Yeah, it was good. Long time, but long time. And we're gonna 3 good chapters. And we're gonna go. Yeah, it was. We're gonna go another 2 weeks because next week we're off for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Julie Davies says she liked Bran at first, but it was just when he got weird that I lost interest in him, which I think is actually a pretty common reaction. Like sometime around the time when it got into more of his head visions, it was just less relatable. I get where you're coming from. Yeah. And yeah, Karen says the book is more detailed about Bran's thoughts, which totally is. So we'll experience that together. I think since we have 2 weeks off, we should read the next 3 chapters, which is the first Tyrion chapter. Gotta love that. And then second Jon chapter and the second Daenerys chapter. Yeah, that works. All right, so 3 chapters for 2 weeks from now. We're off next week.
We will see you guys 2 weeks from now on Wick Live.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.